And Moshe, on the 7th day of the 3rd month, which is Pentecost, Michael, the Prince of Wisdom, said to Moshe, "Come up before the Lord, thou and Aaron and Nadab and Abihu and 70 of the elders of Israel, and worship at a distance. And Moshe alone shall approach before the Lord, but they shall not draw nigh, nor may the people come up with him." And Moshe came and sat before the people all the words of the Lord and all the judgments. And all the people answered with one voice and said, "All that the Lord hath spoken we will do." And Moshe wrote the words of the Lord, and arose in the morning and builded an altar at the lower part of the mountain, and 12 pillars for the 12 tribes of Israel. And he sent the firstborn of the sons of Israel. For until that hour had the firstborn had the office of performing worship, the tabernacle of ordinance not yet being made, and the priesthood not given unto Aaron. And they offered burnt offerings and consecrated oblations of oxen before the Lord. And Moshe took half of the blood of the offering and put it in basins, and half of the blood of the offering he sprinkled on the altar. And he took the book of the covenant of the law and read before the people. And they said, "All the words which the Lord hath spoken, we will perform and obey." And Moshe took half of the blood which was in the basins and sprinkled it upon the altar to expiate the people, and said, "Behold, this is the blood of the covenant which the Lord hath made with you upon all these words." Blessed be his name. Father, thank you for the Sabbath. I pray that you be with me in my reading today. Okay, so welcome everybody today to the Sabbath day of rest and recovery, to be with the Father in this reading, and I hope that you get something from this today. So I'm just going to screen share, and we're going to go to the calendar, which is where we are today on the Hebrew calendar, which is the moon calendar. We're about to enter the 4th month. Okay, we are right now in a conjunction, which is between the moons, between the cycles. The moon has disappeared now. It went from rising as a slither early evening to the full moon, to slowing right off to then appearing in the morning as it got smaller and smaller on the other side. And then it's a conjunction as it goes behind the sun. You can't see it, which completely debunks the globe that we've been taught, because if the sun was shining on the moon, you'd see it completely like 2 suns. It would be fully illuminated. So we're waiting now for the slither of the new moon to come in the evening, and I'm pinning it for Sunday night here in New Zealand, Australia. But let's see, it might be tonight, it might be Monday. But normally it's a day and a half from the last slither, from the finishing off of the last month. So there's actually no feast dates as such this month. It's a break. But we've got every 7 days, you see, we have the first slither, half moon, full moon, the other half, and then the very final slither, which really often can't be seen. And then there's a conjunction, and then we'll be going on to the next month. That's how it works. So that's the calendar. The reading for today that we are doing is the reading of the Judgements. So we've left Genesis with all the bloodlines and Exodus with leaving Egypt. Now we're really getting into the meat of the Torah. A lot of people lose heart coming into here because I don't think that it's important to know these things, which is what I thought until I studied them, and then I can see the importance of them. And as I read in that first opening today, that the judgments, there was a book of the covenant of the law. It's a covenant, you know. So this Torah is full of covenants. And it talks in the end of the Torah about the blessings and the curses. Blessed are you if you are in covenant, if you obey and you're in his kingdom, and cursed if you're not. So let's read about them. Let's see what they're like and see what they have to say about how we are to be living. So we'll start with Exodus 21 to 24. Laws about slaves. And of course, we don't really have slaves today, but some countries do. Africa does, Middle East does. And one thing I want to say about slaves, it's not slaves like human trafficking. That's abominable. But it's slaves as in, you know, someone that's got nothing and would have died had they not had someone take them in and take care of them and look after them. So it's a win-win where they will do things to help the family or the farm to make it work. They're useful. And then over a period of time, they can actually become part of the family. So it's not like human trafficking, taking someone against their will. It might be, you could almost think like of a street person today that's living on the streets and they're broke, they've got no shelter, and they need to come into the fold somewhere. So you can say to them, well, come and live with us, and you can, help do things, and we'll feed you and clothe you, and then, he ends up marrying one of your daughters and coming into the family. That's sort of that concept that I see it. Yeah. Anyway, let's read and see what it says.
Now these are the rules that you shall set before them. When you buy a Hebrew slave, he shall serve 6 years, and in the 7th he shall go out free for nothing. If he comes in single, he shall go out single. If he comes in married, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master gives him a wife and she bears him sons or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her master's, and he shall go out alone. But if the slave plainly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free, then his master shall bring him to God, and he shall bring him to the door or the doorpost, and his master shall bore his ear through with an awl, and he shall be his slave forever. When a man sells his daughter as a slave, she shall not go out as the male slaves do. If she does not please her master, who has designated her for himself, then he shall let her be redeemed. He shall have no right to sell her to a foreign people, since he has broken faith with her. If he designates her for his son, he shall deal with her as with a daughter. If he takes another wife to himself, he shall not diminish her food, her clothing, or her marital rights. And if he does not do these 3 things for her, she shall go out for nothing without payment of money. Whoever strikes a man so that he dies shall be put to death. But if he did not lie in wait for him, but God let him fall into his hand, then I will appoint for you a place to which he may flee. But if a man willfully attacks another to kill him by cunning, you shall take him from my altar, that he may die. Whoever strikes his father or his mother shall be put to death. Whoever steals a man and sells him, and anyone found in possession of him shall be put to death. Whoever curses his father or his mother shall be put to death. When men quarrel and one strikes the other with a stone or with his fist, and the man does not die but takes to his bed, Then if the man rises again and walks outdoors with his staff, he who struck him shall be clear. Only he shall pay for the loss of his time, and shall have him thoroughly healed. When a man strikes his slave, male or female, with a rod, and the slave dies under his hand, he shall be avenged. But if the slave survives a day or two, he is not to be avenged, for the slave is his money. When men strive together and hit a pregnant woman, so that her children come out, but there is no harm, the one who hit her shall surely be fined, as the woman's husband shall impose on him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. But if there is harm, then you shall pay life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. When a man strikes the eye of his slave, male or female, and destroys it, he shall let the slave go free because of his eye. If he knocks out the tooth of his slave, male or female, he shall let the slave go free because of his tooth. When an ox gores a man or a woman to death, the ox shall be stoned, and its flesh shall not be eaten, but the owner of the ox shall not be liable. But if the ox has been accustomed to gore in the past, and its owner has been warned but has not kept it in, and it kills a man or a woman, the ox shall be stoned, and its owner also shall be put to death. If a ransom is imposed on him, then he shall give for the redemption of his life whatever is imposed on him. If it gores a man's son or daughter, he shall be dealt with according to the same rule. If the ox gores a slave, male or female, the owner shall give to their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox shall be stoned. When a man opens a pit, or when a man digs a pit and does not cover it, and an ox or a donkey falls into it, the owner of the pit shall make restoration. He shall give money to its owner, and the dead beast shall be his. When one man's ox butts another so that it dies, then they shall sell the live ox and share its price, and the dead beast also they shall share. Or if it is known that the ox has been accustomed to gore in the past, and its owner has not kept it in, he shall repay ox for ox, and the dead beast shall be his. If a man steals an ox or a sheep and kills it or sells it, he shall repay 5 oxen for an ox, and 4 sheep for a sheep. If a thief is found breaking in and is struck so that he dies, there shall be no blood guilt for him. But if the sun has risen on him, there shall be blood guilt for him. He shall surely pay. If he has nothing, then he shall be sold for his theft. If the stolen beast is found alive in his possession, whether it is an ox or a donkey or a sheep, he shall pay double. If a man causes a field or vineyard to be grazed over, or lets his beast loose, and it feeds in another man's field, he shall make restitution from the best in his own field and in his own vineyard. If fire breaks out and catches in thorns, so that the stacked grain or the standing grain or the field is consumed, he who started the fire shall make full restitution. If a man gives to his neighbor money or goods to keep safe, and it is stolen from the man's house, then if the thief is found, he shall pay double. If the thief is not found, the owner of the house shall come near to God to show whether or not he has put his hand to his neighbor's property. For every breach of trust, whether it is for an ox, for a donkey, for a sheep, for a cloak, or for any kind of lost thing, of which one says, "This is it," the case of both parties shall come before God. The one whom God condemns shall pay double to his neighbor. If a man gives to his neighbor a donkey or an ox or a sheep or any beast to keep safe, and it dies or is injured or is driven away without anyone seeing it, an oath by the Lord shall be between them both to see whether or not he has put his hand to his neighbor's property. The owner shall accept the oath, and he shall not make restitution. But if it is stolen from him, he shall make restitution to its owner. If it is torn by beasts, let him bring it as evidence. He shall not make restitution for what has been torn. If a man borrows anything of his neighbor, and it is injured or dies, the owner not being with it, he shall make full restitution. If the owner was with it, he shall not make restitution. If it was hired, it came for its hiring fee.
Okay, so these laws are actually very fair, I think. I mean, the eye for an eye at the top, they're tough. They are tough. And I mean, we don't sort of have that in our system now. And in fact, in our system, the government gets everything. If you stole a sheep and you had to repay for the sheep, the money goes to the government. It doesn't go to that person. Sometimes it does. But here it's fivefold. If you stole a sheep and it was obvious, then you have to pay fivefold. I mean, the victim does get fairly recompensed when it comes to things like that. The laws at the top about women are a bit, in our society, because women work now. We don't have to put up with certain things. We can stand on our own. We can own businesses, and because this is a world of commerce now. It wasn't so much a commerce world back then. So in that regard, society has completely changed. But yeah, they're interesting. And I think, a lot of these laws are actually very fair. If you injure someone or hurt someone, I mean, that person is injured. Their life has changed because of your action. So there needs to be restitution made back to that person. So yeah, anyway, we'll just go on.
If a man seduces a virgin who is not betrothed and lies with her, he shall give the bride price for her and make her his wife. If her father utterly refuses to give her to him, he shall pay money equal to the bride price for virgins. You shall not permit a sorceress to live. Whoever lies with an animal shall be put to death. Whoever sacrifices to any god other than the Lord alone shall be devoted to destruction. You shall not wrong a sojourner or oppress him, for you were sojourners in the land of Egypt. You shall not mistreat any widow or fatherless child. If you do mistreat them and they cry out to me, I will surely hear their cry, and my wrath will burn, and I will kill you with the sword, and your wives shall become widows and your children fatherless. If you lend money to any of my people with you who is poor, you shall not be like a moneylender to him, and you shall not exact interest from him. If ever you take your neighbor's cloak in pledge, you shall return it to him before the sun goes down, for that is his only covering, and it is his cloak for his body. In what else shall he sleep? And if he cries to me, I will hear, for I am compassionate. You shall not revile God, nor curse a ruler of your people. You shall not delay to offer from the fullness of your harvest and from the outflow of your presses. The firstborn of your sons you shall give to me. You shall do the same with your oxen and with your sheep. 7 days it shall be with its mother. On the 8th day you shall give it to me. You shall be consecrated to me. Therefore you shall not eat any flesh that is torn by beasts in the field. You shall throw it to the dogs. You shall not spread a false report. You shall not join hands with a wicked man to be a malicious witness. You shall not fall in with the many to do evil, nor shall you bear witness in a lawsuit, siding with the many, so as to pervert justice, nor shall you be partial to a poor man in his lawsuit. If you meet your enemy's ox or his donkey going astray, you shall bring it back to him. If you see the donkey of one who hates you lying down under its burden, you shall refrain from leaving him with it. You shall rescue it with him. You shall not pervert the justice due to your poor in his lawsuit. Keep far from a false charge, and do not kill the innocent and righteous, for I will not acquit the wicked. And you shall take no bribe, for a bribe blinds the clear-sighted and subverts the cause of those who are in the right. You shall not oppress a sojourner. You know the heart of a sojourner, for you were sojourners in the land of Egypt.
See, a lot of these are very practical, and we know these anyway, I'm sure, not to take a bribe and speak falsely, but he has to put these down here because these are the way of life. And God's ways are higher than our ways. If you lend money to anybody who has, got less than you, you shouldn't really ask for it back, let alone charge them interest. You know, a lot of these, they're just good practical living things. We all need to be reminded of them. And if everybody did these things, what a world we'd live in, right? Really. And even this one here, do not revile God, Yahweh, nor curse a ruler. Now, look at what, it's really difficult when we are under slavery now in the satanic regime, when Cabal have taken over all the Western countries. But you know what? God sends evil rulers when my people do not obey my ways. We curse ourselves. If we had been obeying God's ways, right, this nation, we wouldn't have these rulers over us. I can tell you now, because we wouldn't want them. We wouldn't, they wouldn't be able to rule, because you rule by consent, and the majority of people just would not consent. So our nation has gone astray. And so God sends a wicked ruler, because they can rule, because people allow them to rule. So it is not until my people who are called by my name turn from their wicked ways, humble themselves and pray, that I will hear from heaven, and I will turn an ear, and I will heal your nation. So we all need to get back to these things. It is a covenant with Yahweh, the way that we live. Oh, laws about the Sabbath and festivals. Let's go.
For 6 years you shall sow your land and gather in its yield. But the 7th year you shall let it rest and lie fallow, that the poor of your people may eat, and what they leave the beasts of the field may eat. You shall do likewise with your vineyard and with your olive orchard.
Now, this is the reason why the Babylonian captivity came in at about 560 BC, the time of Jeremiah and Ezra, because of this neglect of his law. They broke the covenant because they sowed the land every year. They never kept the 7th year of rest, the Sabbath of the land. You see, when God gave us the commandments, the 4th commandment, obey my Sabbaths, my moeds, it's not just the Saturday Sabbath to rest and come away. It's all his Sabbaths, which are his calendar, which I'm showing you, and his the land is a Sabbath that rests every 7 years. And then it goes through to, you do that for 7 years of 7, right? It's 49. And then on the 50th year is the Jubilee. So this was their way of life. And a Jubilee is that which was yours gets returned to you. And it's talking about land. Okay, so I own this house. I sell it to a friend of mine or somebody. And we are 20 years away from the Jubilee year. Because this is the land of my fathers, it means at the end of the Jubilee year, it has to return back to me or my children. So I'd sell it for what it's worth for 20 years of revenue, knowing that those people that were in the home would have to return it back to you. Or at that time, you could probably sell it on for another 50 years if you wish to. That's how it works, because the land resides with Yahweh. And then the covenant of the land that he gave to the 12 tribes of Israel, if they are in covenant, they get the land. If they're not in covenant, they don't. And this is what happened, you see. This is why they got exiled from the land. Because of this one neglect that they did of it. But it was pertaining to the land. You see, Mia brought up an interesting point there in our chat with the commandments. You see, every commandment has a blessing and a curse, but it always relates to that which it is about. So because they didn't obey the covenant of the land Sabbath, they lost the land. So he doesn't go and punish them somewhere else for something else. It's about the land. They got the land taken off them because they didn't obey the covenant. And since then, we've been scattered throughout all the world. Before then, yes, Israel was dispersed too. We know that, but this was the final big exodus, was when they went into Babylonian captivity. So, and that's why, because it's a covenant of the law.
"6 days you shall do your work, but on the 7th day you shall rest, that your ox and your donkey may have rest, and the son of your servant woman and the alien may be refreshed. Pay attention to all that I have said to you, and make no mention of the names of other gods, nor let it be heard on your lips. 3 times in the year you shall keep a feast to me. You shall keep the feast of unleavened bread. As I commanded you, you shall eat unleavened bread for 7 days at the appointed time in the month of Abib. For in it you came out of Egypt. None shall appear before me empty-handed."
Okay, Abib is Nisan. It's the first month, which is around March, April of the year. And the Feast of Unleavened Bread is the feast that begins at Passover. Passover is a feast between the 2 days. It says the sun setting from 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, essentially. And then you have unleavened cakes, which is bread with no yeast in it. Yeast represents sun. So he's commanded us. We are to do these things. And in the book of, I think it's Isaiah, it talks about that in the reinstatement of the kingdom, when Yahusha comes back to rule and reign, all the rulers of the nations have to go to see him in Jerusalem, at these 3 feast dates. So it's interesting because he's mentioning it here as well. There are 8 feasts altogether, but there's 3 that you must be in Jerusalem for. And this is one of them, unleavened bread.
"You shall keep the feast of harvest, of the first fruits of your labor, of what you sow in the field. You shall keep the feast of ingathering at the end of the year, when you gather in from the field the fruit of your labor. 3 times in the year shall all your males appear before the Lord God. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with anything leavened, or let the fat of my feast remain until the morning. The best of the first fruits of your ground you shall bring into the house of the Lord your God. You shall not boil a young goat in its mother's milk. Behold, I send an angel."
Hang on, I just want to stop there. The best of your first fruits. Now that's like tithing. There's 2 times that tithing is sort of mentioned. This is it for the Levitical priesthood. Oh, these other things actually, but and then there was the Melchizedek, which was when Abraham gave to Melchizedek, which was Shem, 1/10 of what he had available at that time. Yeah. 1/10 of his income. He had quite a lot of money, Abraham. He was very wealthy.
"Before you to guard you on the way, and to bring you to the place that I have prepared. Pay careful attention to him and obey his voice. Do not rebel against him, for he will not pardon your transgression, for my name is in him. But if you carefully obey his voice and do all that I say, then I will be an enemy to your enemies, and an adversary to your adversaries."
Now I want to go back to Genesis with this. Remember, I did that recording about the seed line of Cain, and that in Genesis, where's my Bible? It talks about the heel. It's not until they obey me and turn from their wicked ways that we then will be able to rule over them. Where have I got it? No. In Genesis 1. I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between the seed of thy son and the seed of her sons. And it shall be, when the sons of the woman keep the commandments of the law, they will be prepared to smite thee upon the head. But when they forsake the commandments of the law, they will be ready to wound them in their heel. There shall be a medicine, but for thee there will be no medicine, talking about Satan's seed. And they shall make a remedy for the heel in the days of the King Messiah. So again, if we will obey his voice and do as he says, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and an adversary to your adversaries. So we think, why isn't God doing things? What's going on? Because as a nation, we need to turn and pray and hear his voice and fast and obey his ways, and then he will fight on our behalf. And you're going to see a massive shift happening in our country. I absolutely 100% believe that it's going to happen. And I believe, to be honest with you, a lot of it's going in the world is going to start from Aotearoa, New Zealand, because we are the first to see the sun, and it's been prophesied in Isaiah. The islands that are afar off. And if you read from Isaiah 40 onwards, it talks a lot about it. It's very, very exciting. But it's all up to us.
When my angel goes before you and brings you to the Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Canaanites, the Hivites and the Jebusites, and I blot them out, you shall not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do as they do, but you shall utterly overthrow them and break their pillars in pieces. You shall serve the Lord your God, and he will bless your bread and your water, and I will take sickness away from among you. None shall miscarry or be barren in your land. I will fulfill the number of your days. I will send my terror before you, and will throw into confusion all the people against whom you shall come. And I will make all your enemies turn their backs to you. And I will send hornets before you, which shall drive out the Hivites, the Canaanites, and the Hittites from before you. I will not drive them out from before you in 1 year, lest the land become desolate and the wild beasts multiply against you. Little by little I will drive them out from before you, until you have increased and possessed the land. And I will set your border from the Red Sea to the Sea of the Philistines, and from the wilderness to the Euphrates. For I will give the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and you shall drive them out before you. You shall make no covenant with them and their gods. They shall not dwell in your land, lest they make you sin against me. For if you serve their gods, it will surely be a snare to you. Then he said to Moses, Come up to the Lord, you and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and worship from afar. Moses alone shall come near to the Lord, but the others shall not come near, and the people shall not come up with him. Moses came and told the people all the words of the Lord and all the rules. And all the people answered with one voice and said, All the words that the Lord has spoken we will do. And Moses wrote down all the words of the Lord. He rose early in the morning and built an altar at the foot of the mountain, and 12 pillars according to the 12 tribes of Israel. And he sent young men of the people of Israel, who offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen to the Lord. And Moses took half of the blood and put it in basins, and half of the blood he threw against the altar. Then he took the book of the covenant and read it in the hearing of the people. And they said, All that the Lord has spoken we will do, and we will be obedient. And Moses took the blood and threw it on the people and said, Behold the blood of the covenant that the Lord has made with you in accordance with all these words. Then Moses and Aaron, Nadab and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel went up, and they saw the God of Israel. There was under his feet, as it were, a pavement of sapphire stone, like the very heaven for clearness. And he did not lay his hand on the chief men of the people of Israel. They beheld God, and ate and drank. The Lord said to Moses, Come up to me on the mountain and wait there, that I may give you the tablets of stone, with the law and the commandment which I have written for their instruction. So Moses rose with his assistant Joshua, and Moses went up into the mountain of God. And he said to the elders, "Wait here for us until we return to you. And behold, Aaron and Hur are with you. Whoever has a dispute, let him go to them." Then Moses went up on the mountain, and the cloud covered the mountain. The glory of the Lord dwelt on Mount Sinai, and the cloud covered it 6 days. And on the 7th day he called to Moses out of the midst of the cloud. Now the appearance of the glory of the Lord was like a devouring fire on the top of the mountain in the sight of the people of Israel. Moses entered the cloud and went up on the mountain. And Moses was on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights.
Wow. What a sight. It says in the tag in here that the footstool, which is the world, it talks about in the Psalms how we are Yah's footstool. And it talks about in the Targum that the footstool is of sapphire stone. And Moshe and Aaron and Abinadab and Abidu, the 70 elders of Israel, went up, and Nadab and Abidu lifted up their eyes and saw the glory of Yahweh of Israel, and under the footstool of his feet, which was placed beneath his throne, was like the work of sapphire stone, a memorial of the servitude with which the Mitzrayim, which is Egypt, had made the children of Israel to serve in clay and bricks. What time there were women treading clay with their husbands. The delicate young woman with child was also there, and made abortive by the beating down of the clay, and thereof did Gabriel descending make brick, and going up to the heavens on high set it, a footstool under the cathedral of the Lord of the world, whose splendor was a work of a precious stone, and as the power of the beauty of the heavens when they are clear from clouds. Yeah, it talks about the Shekinah of the glory. What a sight that would have been. Yeah. Okay, let's read Isaiah 66.
Thus says the Lord, "Heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. What is the house that you would build for me, and what is the place of my rest? All these things my hand has made, and so all these things came to be, declares the Lord. But this is the one to whom I will look, he who is humble and contrite in spirit, and trembles at my word. He who slaughters an ox is like one who kills a man. He who sacrifices a lamb like one who breaks a dog's neck. He who presents a grain offering like one who offers pig's blood. He who makes a memorial offering of frankincense like one who blesses an idol. These have chosen their own ways, and their soul delights in their abominations. I also will choose harsh treatment for them and bring their fears upon them, because when I called, no one answered. When I spoke, they did not listen, but they did what was evil in my eyes, and chose that in which I did not delight. Hear the word of the Lord, you who tremble at his word. Your brothers who hate you and cast you out for my name's sake have said, let the Lord be glorified, that we may see your joy. But it is they who shall be put to shame. The sound of an uproar from the city, a sound from the temple, the sound of the Lord rendering recompense to his enemies. Before she was in labor, she gave birth. Before her pain came upon her, she delivered a son. Who has heard such a thing? Who has seen such things? Shall a land be born in one day? Shall a nation be brought forth in one moment? For as soon as Zion was in labor, she brought forth her children. Shall I bring to the point of birth and not cause to bring forth, says the Lord? Shall I, who cause to bring forth, shut the womb, says your God? Rejoice with Jerusalem and be glad for her, all you who love her. Rejoice with her in joy, all you who mourn over her. that you may nurse and be satisfied from her consoling breast, that you may drink deeply with delight from her glorious abundance. For thus says the Lord, behold, I will extend peace to her like a river, and the glory of the nations like an overflowing stream. And you shall nurse, you shall be carried upon her hip, and bounced upon her knees. As one whom his mother comforts, so I will comfort you. You shall be comforted in Jerusalem. You shall see, and your heart shall rejoice. Your bones shall flourish like the grass, and the hand of the Lord shall be known to his servants, and he shall show his indignation against his enemies. For behold, the Lord will come in fire, and his chariots like the whirlwind, to render his anger and fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire will the Lord enter into judgment, and by his sword with all flesh, and those slain by the Lord shall be many. Those who sanctify and purify themselves to go into the gardens, following one in the midst, eating pig's flesh and the abomination and mice, shall come to an end together, declares the Lord. For I know their works and their thoughts, and the time is coming to gather all nations and tongues. And they shall come and shall see my glory, and I will set a sign among them. And from them I will send survivors to the nations, to Tarshish, Pul, and Lud, who draw the bow, to Tubal and Javan, to the coastlands far away, that have not heard my fame or seen my glory. And they shall declare my glory among the nations, and they shall bring all your brothers from all the nations as an offering to the Lord, on horses and in chariots and in litters and on mules and on dromedaries, to my holy mountain Jerusalem, says the Lord, just as the Israelites bring their grain offering in a clean vessel to the house of the Lord. And some of them also I will take for priests and for Levites, says the Lord. For as the new heavens and the new earth that I make shall remain before me, says the Lord, so shall your offspring and your name remain, from new moon to new moon, and from Sabbath to Sabbath. All flesh shall come to worship before me, declares the Lord. And they shall go out and look on the dead bodies of the men who have rebelled against me. For their worm shall not die, their fire shall not be quenched, and they shall be an abhorrence to all flesh.
Wow, that's very sobering. You see, this is coming. This is coming. Because Isaiah, when he wrote this, he was the great uncle of Mary, the mother of Jesus. And this wouldn't have happened in his time. This is coming. So it's really important, guys, that we get our house in order and our lives in order according to his Torah. But there's grace there, you see, because Yahusha was the ultimate sacrifice for our lawlessness, for our doing our own thing and neglecting the ways of Yahweh. But, you know, he and his kingdom is coming, and this is the way it operates and it works. And you'll learn it as we go through it, precept upon precept, line upon line, bit by bit. It unfolds. And that's why, just to learn one thing, you don't get it all. It's a continual learning of depth of knowledge, one thing over another. You'll learn something and you think, but that doesn't fit. What do you mean by that? That's ridiculous. That's silly. But as you continue on, you'll find the place of where that bit fits. And it actually makes a lot of sense. One of the things I did when I came to the Father years ago in 2010, I learned that everything that I knew pretty much was a lie. The things I believed in this world, the governments, just the structures of everything, the way we live, what's healthy, what's not, how to spend your time. Everything I learned, even in the churches, was incorrect. Christmas, Easter, a whole society structure. And I sat there and I asked my Father, if you made this world and everything in it, and the systems of it, and of everything that you created, the depth of everything, and the intricacies of everything, including me and my body. I'm sure you can teach me and you can rewire me. I want to let go of everything that I know, every preconceived idea, and replace it with truth. No matter how difficult it would be, I want to know your truth. And I want to know you. I want to know your functions. I want to know what's real, what's not real, and what will sustain me, and who you are. Why are we gone so far from you? Who are you? What are you? Where are you? How does all this work? I wanted to know all those things. Okay, we're now 14 years on from that, but I'm still learning. We'll always learn. And I am the first to say, I do not have it all together either. You know, I've made many mistakes in my life. And I still do. But that's where the grace of Yahusha, he's our brother. He's God's manifestation here in this world. And he lived Torah, he spoke it. And his love for us is enormous. It is just, we are so precious. He knows when a sparrow falls from the tree. And there's a lot of sparrows in the world. How much more does he know everything about me and you and society and the evil? You know, it says here, you know, to treat people with such honor and kindness and respect, because how dare that they pray a prayer against you. I will hear it. I will know about it. You know, so that's why love is the greatest of all, to love each other. And for one that is forgiven much, loves much. You know, we are all on a journey. And he is saying, put your hand in my hand, and I will show you the way. I'll show you truth. And in there lies life abundantly and life eternal. Because when we pass, we all know we don't know, but this isn't the end. We go on to the next phase, and we want to be with him in his kingdom. But wouldn't it be great to see his kingdom come here? And we need a move over our nations. We need to break the back of the cabal, to break the satanic back. And the only way we can do it is spiritual, is through prayer, through fasting, and walking in his Torah and his ways, in the grace and in the love of Yahushua HaMashiach, of Jesus. He did this for us. We need to do that again for them. Give up our all and follow him. Every day we take up our cross. It's a daily thing. We follow him. Do as he says. And see the blessings, see knowledge. All right, one more. Mark 9.
For the one who is not against us is for us. For truly I say to you, whoever gives you a cup of water to drink because you belong to Christ will by no means lose his reward. Whoever causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him if a great millstone were hung around his neck and he were thrown into the sea. And if your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. It is better for you to enter life crippled than with 2 hands to go to hell, to the unquenchable fire. And if your foot causes you to sin, cut it off. It is better for you to enter life lame than with 2 feet to be thrown into hell. And if your eye causes you to sin, tear it out. It is better for you to enter the kingdom of God with 1 eye than with 2 eyes to be thrown into hell, where their worm does not die and the fire is not quenched. For everyone will be salted with fire. Salt is good, but if the salt has lost its saltiness, how will you make it salty again? Have salt in yourselves and be at peace with one another.
Now, who spoke this? Mark 9, it was Jesus that said those words, Yahushua HaMashiach, Yahushua the Messiah. He said these words. What is sin? Sin is to break the law. And if you want to read about that, the books of John, read about it a lot, especially John. There's the Gospel of John, and then there's 3 books of John, 1, 2, and 3. And the third one, or all of them, it talks about sin. Sin is lawlessness. It is breaking covenant. It's really simple. We talked about today about the law of the covenant. And it says in, I've got my Bible, I left it in my bedroom, but I had it. It says that, how do I know what sin is? Be it for the law. And then in the book of John, it also talks that that if you love me, you will keep my commandments. And those I know that are mine because they keep the commandments. Depart from me. You may do all these things in my name. You may even be able to release demons knowing my name. You can do all these things, do miracles in my name if you're one that does those things, right? But I do not know you, he says. I don't know you. Depart from me, you lawless one. Lawless. It's not about doing, it's about being in his kingdom. Yeah. So if you read the books of John, they're very good about what sin is. Because all these guys knew the Torah. Jesus did too, obviously. And he talks about hell. We don't talk about hell much, but man, if you end up there, I think you'd wish that you had thought about it a bit more. And I think about these things myself. Everything we do needs to be measured. It is a sobering message. If your hand causes you to sin, Jesus said it's better to cut it off. It's barbaric, but it's better to go into the kingdom of heaven and be saved eternally and have your hand than have your hand. So as we go through the Torah, you'll learn all the different laws, but basically it comes down to the 10 commandments. Yeah. So yeah. For salt, if everyone will be salted, for everyone will be salted with fire. Salt is good, but if the salt has lost its saltiness, like if you think you can just do whatever you like and it doesn't matter, well, there's no flavor in that. There's no sharpness in it. There's no depth in it. How will you get it salty again? Have salt in yourselves. Be measured, guys, and be at peace with one another. Beautiful. All right. Well, that's the Torah portion for today. And yeah, I just wish you all a very good week. And shalom, everyone. Have a wonderful week. Bye for now.